let's take a minute. We'll look at this UDL guideline. Okay, so I sent you something like this at the beginning of the semester. Say one of the guidelines that you have is clarify vocabulary and symbols, because you're working with vocabulary. So we may see this documented in your UDL information, excuse me, under whole class needs. Okay, so if you have clarify vocabulary, words, and symbols, and the whole class needs this, I should see something in direct instruction where you are clarifying vocabulary needs. Okay, so whatever you put into this section of your plan, you're addressing strategies that you're going to use in each of these categories. Those strategies should then be reflected within your procedures. Okay? If you don't understand that, let me know. Now, the plans that you submit for formal evaluation should be really clear. They should be the most clear plans that you write. Okay, so because you have a 1-inch box here, doesn't mean you need to limit yourself to that. I think it would be helpful in regard to how this is evaluated that you put some taglines in here. So, for example, in direct instruction, you might say, as the teacher, I will, and then tell me the procedure. And then next, as a result, or something along the lines, the student will. Okay, so you're giving your teacher strategy, what the student interaction, what the student learning will be, and then you can ultimately end, with, I will check for understanding by, and then tell me that. And you know what? You might do this direct instruction piece more than once. You can copy those tags and do it again. Okay? And I should see the same thing in each of these categories. And if you need more than one, go ahead and paste it in there. All right, you might find that you get through direct instruction group practice, but then you need to do some more group instruction. I would recommend that you add a row. Okay, just right click on your mouse, insert a row below, and then you can say what you're doing, right? If it's another group instruction, paste it right in there. Okay, adapt this lesson plan so it works effectively for you. Okay, while you develop this lesson plan, it is important that you look at the rubric. I'm going to pause and I'm going to get to the rubric and I'm going to come back. Okay, so the rubric clearly outlines how you're going to be evaluated on your written lesson plan, your teaching, and your professional dispositions. This video is focusing on your lesson plan. And it's pretty clear what it wants you to demonstrate for your planning. You should shoot for highly effective. In the written plan, you should be able to do that. It takes some time for you to write that into the plan. Okay, so please review this. This plan really forces the evaluator to use quantitative measures. Think of quantitative as a quantity. So it's either there or it's not there. There's not a lot of wiggle room for me to think, oh, I think my student teacher is trying to say this. It's either in the plan or it isn't in the plan. And you need to be explicit. Prior knowledge, I think everyone struggled with this piece of their lesson plan. Not only does it want you to include prior knowledge, but look at this first criteria. It includes a creative activity that addresses prior knowledge. And all evidence of candidates' attempts to reinforce prior knowledge is interwoven in the plan. So to address prior knowledge, the most ideal place would probably be in your bell ring, or your anticipatory set. Now, I did send out information last week about how to do an anticipatory set, which is different from a bell ringer. Okay, it's how you're hooking the class and getting them interested. Okay, so you're really focusing on previously learned content and skills, bringing it into the lesson. So this lesson is scaffolding on previous learning. That's how you need to think of the prior knowledge. The objectives, this was a tough one because some of you only had one objective or two. And to get a highly effective, you need to have more than two. Okay, and the objectives need to be measurable. They need to be skills-based. Okay, so be careful of your word choice. If you need to pull out a copy of Bloom's taxonomy, then do that. Okay, most of you are at middle levels. Okay, you really need to try and step away from that immediately remember recall, which is the bottom of Bloom's. You should be looking for tier 3 at least. So you want to make sure that the wording, the skills wording that you use addresses that. In regard to standards, I did not see any disconnect between standards and objectives. All of you seem to align pretty well with that. Assessment, this was a tricky area. Okay, you need to be clear what you are having students do so you're measuring their learning. At this point, many of you are using formative in-class assessments. The language in the assessment should align with the objective. So whatever skill word you're using in the objective should appear in how you're describing the assessment. Which brings us to the UDL. The UDL will have those skill words in them as well as strategies. Okay, so think of your strategies and how they're supporting the skills. All right, there should be overlap. You should not think of the UDL as something extraneous to the procedures. They work together. Okay, they work together in a way that allows you to focus on individual needs while teaching to the whole class. And then we get down to like activities. Okay, this was a tough one as well. All right, so in innovative instructional strategies, well, there's a lot to be interpreted for innovative, but what are 4 instructional strategies that you're using? That's what you are doing. Okay, if everything is discussion, that's only one strategy. Okay, so look back at the strategies documents I gave you in methods courses, and Dr. Brown gave them to you as well. You need to be creative. And you know what really helps me evaluate your lesson plan is if you put them in bold print. You can see them, so you can rate yourself, and then I can see them. Academic language, this is that skills language as well. And then we have key vocabulary, so that's going to be like your content vocabulary. Okay, so if you are doing something where students are creating something, that's going to be a word you're going to use quite a bit. If they're doing an analysis, that's going to be a word that you're going to have students develop and so on. All right, so the next thing here is instructional strategies. You're probably wondering, how is this different from lesson activities? These are different things that are happening. Okay, so activities are things that you're doing to promote learning. Strategies are things you're having students do to be engaged with the learning. Okay, so you're thinking about how your students are working through the knowledge and developing and strengthening their knowledge. Okay, so you really should be working towards like that student-centered environment. Okay, so this is looking at what you're doing to engage your learners. Materials and resources, please link everything. Not just what you're having students do, but what you are using to teach. So if there's teacher notes, attach them. If students are completing a worksheet, share with me what a completed one looks like. Okay, this gives me a big picture of what you are doing in your lesson. Technology, how are you using it? How are you using it as the teacher to enhance your lesson? The flip side to that is how are students using it to increase their level of knowledge and their skills development? You need to give both sides. Okay? So that's everything with the lesson plan rubric. Please take the time to review the expectations. You need to do this not only for the observed lesson plans, but for your teacher performance assessment as well. These are the most clear lesson plans that you need to write for your program. If you have any questions, please get back to me. Thanks.